What questions do we have for our panelists?
Sean, on that digital twin control group, I love it. I've kind of done it. And the thing that I've run into is controlling who's in it exactly. And so if you over lump into that group, how do you control the precision for the comparison to the trial group?
So yeah, it's definitely not as easy as I kind of. So the key thing is we're back to old statistics, which is we're just controlling for lots of different confounders, right? Because that's always the problem, is the missing confounder that you're not controlling for, and therefore, you don't really have a digital
Something
twin.
special that should be there in the.
So that's, but I should also say you can do more things. You can do, I think someone, I think my compatriot in the panel showed, we can test for
That's you.
divergence when you have a certain demographic or a certain ethnicity or race and so forth, right? So we can plug that in and make sure that it doesn't go off the rails.
Certain trajectory that led to them to that comparative state.
We can, so that's one thing we can take advantage of, and then that's probably the most important thing we can do as an adjunct. Yeah.
Other questions for our panelists?
So I know everybody loves cancer. I hate cancer, but that's because I work in autoimmune disease. What kind of features? I mean, staging is a very specific thing for cancer. Is there anything that could be done for other diseases like autoimmune diseases, which are highly variable?
Outcomes.
Those are hard to measure too.
Oh yeah, but they are in the chart.
Are they? I'm not sure all outcomes are in the chart.
Yeah, that's fair.
Death is never in the chart. Let's face it, and that's one of the primary outcomes for everybody, right?
Death is a tough one. Yeah, it is. Death is a tough one. Yeah.
Record.
So stage 4 clinical trials which is just surveillance, right, after the clinical trial is done, is a big use case for digital twins. But again, it's just really kind of the important thing about why is a digital twin different from any other algorithm is that it's simply like when you do the calculation. So a lot of things go into calculating a digital twin of a patient, which you couldn't do as a massive calculation for a population, right? There's a lot of things you have to consider and interacting variables and so forth when you're computing like the digital representation of a patient. And so really the hypothesis of the digital twin is it's better to do all those calculations, come up with a few million digital representations of your patients, and then do your population study, adverse events and so forth on that, rather than try to do it over the population with one big equation. And we've seen, like with efforts of the FDA and so forth, what happens when you try to do it with one big equation, because what you really get is this matrix of, you get a time invariant matrix is what happens. So you get all the patients who got, metformin and who have gotten, itchy legs, but it doesn't tell you the timing of did they get metformin before their itchy legs or after their itchy legs. And so the signals are very rough. And by doing a digital twin, you actually, and then kind of doing the same matrix, you get a much better idea of like the life of the patient and accounting for that.
So actually to follow up on that question about autoimmune things and also the adverse effects of checkpoint inhibitors, which are very unappreciated. If it's not asked and if it's not looked for, and you have this aura of kind of what is kind of this graft versus host autoimmune sequelae that you get from inappropriate use, but inappropriate or just, of checkpoint inhibitor in a clinical trial. And it's not, the oncologists aren't measuring the outcome of declining function, quality of life, and what's that sort of complex multimorbidity profile of somebody who has active kind of graft versus host. It's an autoimmune sequelae of a checkpoint inhibitor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they'll call all kinds of, if I'm a neurologist, they'll call me in for ARIA, right, which is a terrible thing that can happen in the brain when you get an autoimmune induced reaction where it just starts eating away basically at your coverings of the brain to where called the myelin sheaths. And once it starts, so yeah.
Lupus neurovascular.
Yeah, many. So it's that. Yeah, that's an interesting. Anyway, but yes, our digital twins
and also
should be able to.
You guys should have thoughts on this sort of thing, that multimorbidity picture that should go to a diagnosis that was never made. Is that fair?
Diagnoses are not the only thing that shows up, though, for patients, right? So their diagnoses is not the only information we have with the digital twin. We have many other things. We have symptoms. Victor's actually been studying these quite a bit and understanding how many symptoms we actually do get in the medical record and how we can get them do a much better job using AI and natural language interpretations. And you have patient-reported outcomes as well, which helps.
I think we'll take one more question and then we'll break.
I have this question for Yanshan and everyone. So the Enclave, and do we have a API that actually calls the patient journey? So the background is, now if we look back at how the model transferability from one set to the other, and it doesn't work from set to set. That's a key problem. And if we look at what makes LLM actually in the end work, there was in NLP, there used to be n subfields, and suddenly everything merged into one. That's why the model become large enough, until to the point that we almost used up the internet data. Now we have a working model. That's behind what generative AI is today. And we have the same problem, a similar problem here with machine learning models in healthcare. But we have the data there, but the data just don't come together. Until that time, we can't just build a large enough model. And Enclave, I think, is a good step, which is a way to pull the data. So the question really is that do we have a unified API which actually pulls the data, and so that these models can actually use that data to do the subsequent processing. Of course, evaluation is one of them, but more importantly, can we actually use this data from different sets to build a large model together? Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Yes, thanks for the question. So right now, in the Enclave, there's no such API that is available because everything is regulated by the data use agreement between the site and the Enclave. All the data, if the single institution have the IRB and the data use agreement approved, they can leverage the Enclave, and also based on the index cohort definition, they can put the data, in the Enclave, but nothing leaves the Enclave. So all the process, training, everything has to be done within the Enclave right now. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, panelists. Great discussion.
Thank you.